Whether you're looking for answers to specific life questions or seeking to become the best version of you possible, welcome to the Mental Breakdown and Psych Reg podcast, where we offer insight, information, and strategies based upon research and years of practice as clinical psychologists. So sit back, have a listen, and get connected with our hosts, Dr. Bernie Wilkinson and Dr. Richard Marshall. Welcome back. Richard, today we're going to touch a little bit more on a topic that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, actually, on multitasking.
And I enter this discussion with a little fear and trepidation.
Do you?
Because I bag off a lot about multitasking to
my
students.
You do.
It's one of those little pet peeves that I have. Mm-hmm. And every semester I mention this to my students, and they always disagree. Mm-hmm. But today we're going to talk about some recent research that suggests that, as incredible as it sounds, I might be wrong.
Well, you know what? This will be interesting because I'm going to shift a little bit and surprise you with my views a little bit, because I didn't tell you what my view was before we started recording.
Then I'm excited about this.
So we'll see how it goes.
I might have to eat a little crow.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see where this goes. But it's about multitasking. So
yes.
If any of my students are listening to this, past, present, or future students are listening to this, pay close attention, because perhaps there'll be a little crack in this wall.
Right.
Okay.
Well, so the topic came up from a blog post on psychreg.com, who's our partner. Mm-hmm. And the founder of PsychReg was actually the author, Den Red. Reloho, I think is how that's how you pronounce his last name. And so Den wrote about this study that's being conducted that looks at gender differences in multitasking.
Assuming that multitasking is even possible.
Yes.
What they looked at in this study were sex-based differences in the ability to
multitask.
Presumed ability to multitask.
I'm
not going to give up yet.
I'm
hanging on.
I'm really digging how you're like dancing and you're really trying to work.
This is a. I might. Okay.
So the title is "Women Are Better at Multitasking." Straight to the.
There's no presumed. What my students are. All the women I teach say women can multitask, and men may not be able to, but women can. So
what the research that is presented suggests, and there's a little bit of a video that's linked in the blog post.
Right.
And what Dim wrote in this article is that as part of this study, they're finding that men and women's brains process information differently.
That's right. Now that we know.
Right. Okay. While men's brains function sort of front to back,
anterior to posterior.
Right. Women's functions more left to right.
Right. And we've known that. I mean, the studies that were done 25 years ago showed that men and women's brains work very differently.
Right.
So we knew that.
Right. And so sort of building on that, they're suggesting that, so since our brains function differently or seem to work differently in those ways, perhaps that's why we see some of these sex-based differences in other types of functioning.
That's right. The idea being that if they're different neurologically, perhaps that would lead to different behaviors.
Right.
Okay. Or different abilities.
Right.
Okay.
And so they did this study where they're giving you a whole bunch of tasks to do within a very short amount of time, and they're looking to see which who can accomplish the most work, basically.
Who gets the most of each of these tasks completed accurately.
Correct. Right. And so it's, again, suggesting that women were better at managing that multitasking type of activity.
Right. But also it was impossible to do all the tasks.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It wasn't possible to complete everything.
And so part of the task was to be able to organize and prioritize. Mm-hmm. And I was going to say maybe that's the advantage that women have. It's not really multitasking.
Right.
But it was an impossible task. You had to work as quickly as possible, and you had to be able to prioritize and organize.
Right.
Women seem to do that better.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, that's the study, and they found that, or they are suggesting and proposing more research to look at these sex-based differences in their ability to, in fact, multitask, to manage multiple activities at the same time. And here's...
No, wait, let me do this.
This is going to be great.
I'm going to ask you, would you agree that instead of saying at the same time, within the same time frame?
Okay.
Not at the same time.
Well, because I think that what you're saying is exactly what I was going to suggest. This is my twist.
Okay. This is the part that you were going to tell me.
Right.
Okay.
What if it's not that you're doing these things concurrently?
There you go.
What if it's that you're just capable of shifting between activities more quickly and your brain resets faster? For some people's brains reset faster so that they can focus on the other task more quickly than other people can.
I think that's the key difference. I think that's the point at which I think our thinking converges.
Okay.
Is that when we say multitasking, we don't mean doing two things at the same time. We mean switching quickly. Mm-hmm. You can do that. You have that ability.
Okay.
You're not a woman.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you have that ability. You're the only male. How do we say this? You're the only male I know who can do that. I don't know any other man who can switch as quickly as you do. I mean, you can have 5 devices open, and you can switch from one to the other. Mm-hmm. And you can switch to your iPhone and have full attention on that single device, and then switch very quickly to your computer. The iPhone is now in the past. Right. I can't do that.
Right. And part of that is remembering where you were on the different tasks, so that's how you get right back to it.
So I have a memory deficit.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay. No, but that's what it is. And that's what I think we do. In the video, and I urge the audience, we're not going to play the video here.
Right. No.
But I urge the listeners to look at the video, to watch the video, because it is really informative and the graphics are really well done. But in the video, they talk about switching, that you're not doing two things at the same time, because I don't think the brain can do that. Mm-hmm. I think the brain is only capable of doing, at least at a conscious level, doing one thing at a time. So that even in the video, they use the phrase switching quickly. And I think that's what you do. But that's the unique characteristic that women, I think, bring to this, is the ability to switch very quickly, to shut off one and open up the other very quickly. Where men, it's more laborious.
Right.
And we don't switch quickly.
Right.
You do, because you're...
I think that the other piece to it is that it is the nature of the task. You know, it's easier to quote unquote multitask
that would be
when you're doing something in different media. Like if you're listening at the same time that you're doing something physical. So perhaps the sensory input, when it's varied and
well, I think you make that, I think, is an important distinction. Okay, because you're right, this is also task dependent, because yes, you can listen to music and read at the same time, because those are two different brain systems.
Right.
You can talk and walk at the same time,
right,
because those are two different brain systems. What you can't do is a division problem while you're doing a multiplication problem.
Correct.
You can't read two texts at the same time. Right. Maybe that's another distinction.
And I think that in using that example, you know, walking and talking at the same time, it's interesting that is an example that we use when we are referring to somebody who like absolutely has to focus on one thing at a time, can't.
Yeah, she can't walk and chew gum, or he can't walk and chew gum at the same. We use that as a joke, critical, to indicate limited functional ability,
limited diversification of activity, right? So perhaps again that the type of task it matters,
and the closer, maybe that's what it is. The more difference there is between the two tasks, the greater the likelihood that you can do them at the same time.
Right, like you said.
The closer they are, the less multitasking.
Right, because like you said, many times you can listen to music and read at the same time.
Absolutely.
But if if you're listening to a heavy lyric, a song that's heavy lyrically that you're listening to, then it makes it more difficult to read.
If you're trying
because you're listening to words at the same time you're trying to read words.
That's right.
And that's where they cross over.
Right. Even though one is listening and one is reading, it's the same brain region that you're asking to do.
Right. A
two
similar
different
task.
things at the same time.
Right.
And that's what we can't do.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Speaking out of both sides of your mouth.
Right. You can't carry on simultaneously two conversations.
Or if you have different music, dichotic listening.
Right.
If you have classical music coming into the left side and rock music coming into the right side, you can switch back and forth, but you don't really, if you try to listen to both of them at the same time,
right,
the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
Because you can't do both. You can, but you can't make meaning from it.
So I think
interesting study. But this is really an interesting study.
Yeah, and I'm really eager to see what more they do because it's going to be fascinating to see what some of the other results are.
And this research is being done in England, right?
It looks like there's some of it done in England, but they also mentioned a group in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the research at the University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
that's
I think
right.
so. So but see what happened is we came a little bit closer together.
Well, it does, because the more you think about this stuff, okay, and talk about it, you clarify your own thinking.
Right.
That's what happened to me when I did this, because this is a task that I talk about all the time.
Right.
And it's especially useful for teenagers and college students because most of them are convinced that they multitask and they really don't.
Right.
And they argue with their parents that, well, I can keep all these, what do you call them? Tabs. I can keep all these tabs open, and I can listen to, and I can have my cell phone, and I can have an iPad, and I can be doing my homework all at one time because I can multitask.
Right.
No, you can't multitask.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But it does. The second part of our conversation does suggest that, parents, if your kid is saying that they would like to listen to music while they're doing their homework, that's a possibility, right, because it does sort of hit in two different areas. Now, if they're supposed to be reading material and then you hear them singing along to the music, then that's probably a problem.
Yeah, they're probably listening to the music. But the best writing I've done while listening to music.
Right. And I know that I have this one kid that I talked to who has worked to convince his parents that he can play video games and do homework at the same time.
Right.
That's not possible.
I don't think he can.
He'll play video games. He'll do homework for 2 minutes after he has to reset or restart the next level, and then he'll go back to the video game. So that's
how it works.
Yeah, that's not multitasking.
Right. No, that's not multitasking. That's switching. That's switching and distracting.
That's manipulation. We'll talk about that another time.
That's right. That's another topic for another day.
So,
but glad to talk about this. This is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glad we did this one.
So check out the article or the column there at the blog post on PsychReg. We'll put a link in the show notes. It's a very interesting topic.
Right.
So, all right, that's it for today. So we'll be back tomorrow with another show. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and forget to be afraid.